And like, what's the use case of SQL? Why we need SQL? Any database? RDBMS. Okay. So as name says, structured, right? So what are the types of data you guys know? What are the types of data? Structured, unstructured, semi-structured. Now, SQL is a language which is used to fetch structured data. Okay, only structured data. So when you want to perform any operation or any query, let's say fetching the data, updating the data, deleting the data, creating table, all of these things will be done using SQL. Okay. So why we use SQL? Are used to query the databases having structured data. You cannot fetch unstructured or semi-structured data using SQL. Okay. So let's say types of data then. Which ones? Structured. Then we have unstructured. Then we have semi-structured. Now, what is the structured data? Data in the form of rows and columns or tabular data, right? That is tabular data. An example? Excel. What else? That's Excel. MS Access. Okay. So I can say, yeah, I can say relational databases. All relational databases only store data in the form of tables, and they have relations between them. So I can say relational databases, or better it is, I should have RDBMS, which is relational database management systems. So what are these RDBMS systems? We will discuss what is RDBMS system, but any RDBMS system you guys know? Oracle, yes. So RDBMS. So we have, let's say, the one we'll be studying: SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL. Which one? PHP. Admin. I haven't used it. I'm not sure about it. I'll check. Does it have relationship between the tables? And it's so structured data. So that's a IDE you're talking about, or it is RDBMS, because RDBMS it will be MySQL. Like MySQL is a RDBMS system. MySQL Workbench is a IDE. So what you're talking about in that? Okay. Okay, so we'll discuss that in the mentorship. So MySQL, then PostgreSQL, then we have IBM ka DB2, and we have Microsoft Access. All these are RDBMS systems which stores the structured data in the form of tables, and those tables have relationship with each other. Okay, are connected with each other. Okay, unstructured data in any random format. Example: PDF, Word file, audio, video, images. Any DBMS system which stores unstructured data. MongoDB. Yes. Okay. Semi-structured data in any random format, but has the property of getting converted into tabular data. Into tabular data. Okay. So this example we have discussed. CSV file, Excel file, not Excel, XML and JSON. So what MongoDB does, MongoDB stores the data in the form of JSON, like it stores the data in JSON format, but that data is stored in the form of a file, like everything is stored in one single document. That is why it is unstructured. Data is stored in JSON format, but in a single document. So that file is a document, and that is why it is a unstructured, I can say database which stores unstructured data, not database, DBMS system. Okay. One more thing I would like to tell, when I say DBMS system or RDBMS, these does not store the data. Okay, these are just a medium to perform tasks. This does not store the data. So these are the types of data that we have. Among this, we'll be working with only structured data. Then comes the part where we have database. What's a database? No, that's relational database. What database does? Like why we use database? To store the data, right? Store. Excel had a limitation. Key, you can store around 1 million records in a single sheet, but you do not have any limitation inside database. You can store TBs of data, terabyte. Even you can store for PB, that is petabytes of data. You have to go to the big data systems like Hadoop, right? But you can store till TBs of data over here, right? So there is no restriction on the number of records and the number of columns you can have in a particular table. Okay? So it's a collection of data. What is a database? It's a collection of data in some standardized format, because each database will have some specific format in which it will be storing the data. If it is unstructured data, so either it can store the data in JavaScript object notation or in some other format, whatever the format it is following. Okay? It's a collection of data in some standardized format.
So RDBMS or DBMS basically क्या फर्क है?
Yeah, I'll tell you. DBMS is a superset and RDBMS is a subset. So it's a specific part, specific category of DBMS.
So DBMS cannot perform relations between the two.
So DBMS will contain both kind of databases which stores unstructured data and structured data. Now we will be working with structured data only, right? Because let's say if you want to fetch unstructured data from MongoDB, you may have to use Python for that. SQL won't work while fetching the unstructured data. SQL can only be used to fetch the structured data from the database. Okay. So DBMS is a superset and RDBMS is a specific category which we will be working with. Database, then we have relational database. Like database is a superset, relational database is one of the categories, specific category of the database. Then we have relational database.
Database, DBMS has all the properties of RDBMS, and RDBMS does not have all the properties.
Correct. We have talked about database. Clear with the database term? What is relational database? It stores the data in form of tables, and there is relationship defined between the tables. That is, the tables are connected with each other. When I say relationship is defined between the tables, it's kind of, you can understand it as, let's say I have a customer table which will have what? Customer ID, demographics, customer name, phone number, Aadhaar card, some columns, right? This is my customer table. Then I have one more table, let's say, which is sales table. Okay. Now, if I want to let's say not customer, let's say employee table. This is employee table, and here I have employee ID, salary, and the department of the employee, right? And let's say among this only, I just want to understand which employee has done how much sales. So sales की information कहाँ पे होगी? It will be in the sales table. If I want to fetch the data from the sales table, or if I want to fetch the data from employee table, I need to have these two tables connected. I need to have relationship between these two tables. So that relationship will be defined on basis of some column, right? For example, here I have employee ID. Here also, just understand that here also I will have employee ID, like which employee has done a particular sale. Yes or no? So on basis of this column, I can connect these two tables, and accordingly I can fetch the data, right? So this is what relational database is that is the data is stored in the form of tables and the relationship is defined between them. Okay, we will discuss the type of relationships, but that's the overview of database and relational database. Clear with the database and relational database? Online guys, clear till this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Then I talked about DBMS. Okay, which is database and then I talked about RDBMS, which is relational database management system. When I talk about DBMS,
Database table में sir.
database में, right? If I tell you the hierarchy, just understand, if I tell you the hierarchy over here, you have database server. I'll talk about the server part. You have a database server, which will have a lot of databases. Databases will have tables, and those tables will have columns. That's the hierarchy. Clear? You have a database server, in which you'll be creating a lot of databases, which will inside that you'll be creating tables, and inside tables you'll be creating columns, and then you'll be filling those columns with the data, right? ठीक है. So database कहाँ पे create हो रहा है? Database server में, right? So in order to create database in the database server, to manage the database server, you use DBMS systems. ठीक? Database create करना हो, table create करनी हो, data fetch करना हो, data update करना, whatever you task you want to perform, that is being done using DBMS system. So this is a software which helps to manage the database server, databases in the database server. So it's a connection between the user and the database server. Or platform which hosts or manages the databases in the database server. Records, when I say records, that means rows, okay? Or changing the data type, or let's say changing the name of the column, whatever you want to perform, that can be done using DBMS system. Okay. Similarly, we have a RDBMS system. So RDBMS system is specific to what? Relational databases. Okay. Same thing. It's a software or platform which hosts or manages the relational databases in the database server. Which also manages the relational databases in the database server. Clear till this point? Everyone now understands what is a database, what is a DBMS system, what is a RDBMS system, and what is a relational database. ये terms clear है? Online guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, now I talked about the database server. Like what is a server, guys? Then now let's talk about server. What is a server? Information about the data. Information or data. It provides data, yes, but in general, if I talk about what is a server,
Database which can contain
Sir, a server is a computer program or can provide service to another computer.
Aditya, you have to be a bit loud. It is not a database. Database is a different
A
thing.
server is a computer program or device which provides server to another computer.
Okay, so that's again one of the service you are talking about. It's a device or software which provides service to another computer. That's one of the functionality is talking about. Okay, so I can say server in general. What is a server? So I can say it's a software / hardware. It can be a software or it can be a hardware which provides services like data storage, computation, networking, etc. The internet. Can you use any of the server? Can you use Gmail without using the internet? No. Can you use WhatsApp without the internet? No. Right? So in order to use the services of a server, you have to be connected to the internet. So it can be a software or it can be a hardware, right? Okay. If I talk about the example of a hardware, okay? Let's say if I talk about my PC, my laptop, if I talk about, okay, we'll discuss that later, software or hardware. First, tell me what are the types of servers? You guys know some examples, types of servers. Yes. Any server type you guys know? Oracle. Again, Oracle is not a server. It's a what we call it DBMS system. RDBMS. MongoDB is DBMS. It's not a server.
So database service.
Correct. We have one. We have is database server. What else? Servers. What else? Which one? Client server.
Mail server, DNS.
Yes. 1 second. Servers, DNS. What else?
Cloud.
Mail.
Cloud is a different term. I'll explain what cloud is, but that's a different term.
Sir, it's mail server.
Correct. Mail server. Then we have sixth one we have is network server. Inside network server, what can we have? What all types of network server are? So I can have over here, I can have media server. I can have print server. I can have signaling server. Like over here. Print server. Okay? If I talk about this, let's say if I talk about Zoom, okay? We are using Zoom. You log in. So that means for that we require with server, web application server. What the server does is it takes care of the smooth functioning of the website. Like whatever request it is getting from the client, it is connecting it to the backend and it takes care of the smooth running of the website. That's what web application server does. Okay, I'm logged in. Now what I want to do, I want to server to initially establish the connection between the two users. It will be using a signaling server. Okay, connection is established. Now, what we'll have is we'll be having like camera on, like face to face, we'll be talking. So for that, I'll be using the media server. Right now, let's say I'm doing this recording on the Zoom. This is getting stored somewhere after it is processed. So for that, I'll be using database server or not data. If not database, So I can use any of these, either database server or I can use storage server. So understand, like if an application has to function smoothly, how many services it is utilizing in the backend. And what a server does, it provides a specific service only, right? If I talk about Gmail, again, you have to log in, let's say. So web server it will be using. It stores your mails, so some storage server, database server. Then it sends the mails also to the some client, right? So it has to make sure that the mail is sent to the correct person, whatever email ID you have mentioned, right? And it does not go to any other email ID. Forms cloud. Clear, everyone?
Can you just go through this again?
Which one, Bhavya?
The server, the complete server part. Like, how does it function?
Okay, let's say if you're talking about Zoom application we are using, right? So if you're logging
Yes.
into the Zoom application, what do you think? Which application server it is? Which server it is using? You are logging into the website. If the website is working properly, that's because of web
Web application.
Now you are logged in. You want to create a, you want to connect to a client. For that, you'll be using network server. In that network server, you have a lot of servers. For example, if you want to, if you want to connect to a client, so for the initial connection between the client, it will be using a signaling server. Now, to stream the video in a smooth manner, it will be using media server. For example, all the streaming platforms, YouTube, Netflix, all these are using what? Media server to stream the videos. Clear?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, like I'm recording now, right? I want to store this somewhere. So either I'll use storage server or database server.
Okay.
So that's just, you don't need to get into the depth of it, but you just need to understand what are servers.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, what do you think? What is the difference between this database server and storage server? Any example you can give for the database server or storage server? The applications that you have used. Okay, let's say database server. Maybe we have, again, I'll say simply RDBMS, Oracle, IBM DB2, SQL Server, MySQL, PostgreSQL, MS Access. All these are under database server. Okay, relational database. So in database server, I'll be creating relational databases, or relational database, not databases, because not databases are not connected. Inside the database, the tables are connected. What is storage server example?
Cloud.
Google Drive. Any Dropbox? Yes. iCloud. Right? Now, understand what is the difference between the two. Still, can you tell me the difference between the two?
So can we say that database server is basically about the structure?
You are creating relational databases in database server. Because if I talk about database server over here, so database server, why we are using database server, first of all? Because it provides functionality, certain functionality it is having. For example, let's say that is, you are able to update, modify the data, delete the records, create tables, stop tables. So that requires some storage server. What it is providing? Only storage. Right?
It's a type of database.
It's a different server. Database server is different because it has different functionality.
Computation
Computation as in processing power. So database server has its own processing. using the example of database server, okay? My machine, my laptop provides me what functionalities? Two functionalities it is providing me: storage and processing, right? Now I'm using this processor to keeping this, I'm using these services to myself. So that's a local server. If I want someone else to use my services, they will be able to use my storage and my processing power, right? So then that it becomes a database server, because I'm providing them two things: storage and functionality. Let's say you are creating a database, right? In the database server, so somewhere that data is getting stored, right? It's not that it's just on the over the cloud. It is getting stored in some machine, ultimately in some physical machine, which is integrated over the internet. So what happens in the cloud? So if you know, what are the major cloud places you guys know? AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, GCP. Okay. What these are doing? They have their own data centers will have what? A lot of machines, which will provide various services. For example, let's say I want to perform any analytics project. Okay. For that project, let's say I want to build some machine learning model. Okay. So that I have huge data. Let's say I have around 10 dB of data.
But all of the services that are provided by cloud platforms happens through the virtual platform. It does not happen through the physical one.
But that's a software which is being stored somewhere.
And that software is actually running through our physical laptop or
Correct.
desktop.
Correct.
Does it actually infuse in the computation part as well?
Yes, definitely.
But it's happening virtually. I mean,
It is integrated. That's the point. So I told you at the start that server can be a hardware or a software, right? So when I say database server, okay, that's a hardware, definitely. If I talk about RDBMS, that's a software which is helping us to manage that server, right? So ten TB of storage and 128 GB of RAM, right? So what they will do is they have their own data centers. So they will have multiple machines, right? Let's say if a particular machine is having 16 GB of RAM. So how many machines I will require as such? 8. So it will integrate all of these and will give me the 128 GB of RAM and 10 TB of storage. And accordingly, it will charge me for that.
but that's one of the supercomputer. Virtual supercomputer. Because 128 GB RAM.
See, what is virtually available? What do you mean by virtual? So
Like-
again, if I talk about virtual server, so in Mac, what happens? You're not able to install Power BI. So you have to convert your Mac into half window. For that, you'll be using some services from the cloud. That's virtual machine, we call it. So that's a software we are talking about. But if you're talking about the computation power, then that's coming from some processor.
External source.
Yes. So if you'll see, let's say, अगर हम इसका example check करें, a lot of startups, ठीक है? A lot of startups do not have their own data infrastructure.
Yes.
Why? What are the reasons for that?
Because for physical infrastructure to be
It will be very costly.
It will be very and it needs a lot of space.
Yeah. It needs a lot of space. You need, basically, those are what? Data centers only.
Yes.
Having physical machines,
For network connection.
right? So what all they need to do? They need to buy these machines, first of all. Then they need to hire a team which will take care of these machines, which will integrate it. Then they have to basically do the maintenance part also. They have to replace these machines in timely manner. Now, let's say if I am a non-tech company, I won't be investing my money on these. I can simply use the services from the cloud, from AWS, Azure, which is already having this infrastructure. And their business model is what? They will charge from the user as per the usage. If I am using 7 hours, let's say if I'm using 7 hours for 7 hours every day, their services, so they will charge me only for 7 hours. And I don't have to worry about the maintenance also, machines also, because I'm using their machines ultimately. For example of this could be, let me tell you this example. So you guys haven't done Python, but there's this thing. So let's say one of the good example of cloud can be, let's say there's a Python is not getting installed in my system. So I can directly use it on the cloud. What will I do? I will just say Google ka available, it's freely available, Google Colab. So I'll say Google Colab. and then okay, let me open this. This is how it looks like. Now, advantage of this is when अगर मैं Python install करता हूँ अपने machine में, what will happen? I need to also install the packages. Those packages are going to make my system slow, right? Because those are very heavy packages.
They will require a lot of space.
Lot of space as well. First of all, first thing. Second, most of the time they may throw an error while installing because they may not be compatible enough with the versions that I've installed, or maybe not compatible with my machine, right? But in cloud, what happens? These things are already installed. So this is a package which is pandas. I just need to write it. They're already available and it will be imported. I don't have to install anything. That's the biggest advantage. So that means that this package is already installed in some machine, right? So it's done, see, imported. And I can even connect it to the Google Drive. So Google Drive is storage server. Basically using storage server, I can upload my data sets on the Google Drive and import it over here using the Google Drive path. Okay, one thing. Till now, it is, I think it was using my laptop processing. So runtime we have over here. So if I say view runtime, change runtime type. Okay. So, okay, TPU. So earlier what happened, GPU was also available for me, but now I think you have to pay and then it will be available. So you can say TPU. If you say what it is saying, okay, yes. I can say GPU or TPU, whatever version to this. If I say CPU, it will be, by default it is CPU. That means it's just, so I can select any of the processing component I want. So GPUs are basically, I can say, are helpful in dividing the task. You can select whether you want to have Python or R. You don't have to install anything. So that's available on the cloud. I installed in some machine which is assigned to me, right?
It's open source right?
Yes. So that's what server is over a network. That network is internet. Everyone clear with the server now? You don't need to get into very detail of this. So this is just an example. Okay? Clear? Online guys, clear to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then what we have is, let me check. Okay. Now, what do you think if I'm designing any relational database? Okay? Steps in designing a database. What all things I need to keep in mind? What all steps will be there?
First, create the
What is the first step?
create database.
Create database. I'll directly create the database. Requirements, correct. So I will need to check the requirements. So first thing that we'll be doing is requirement gathering. Like what's the requirement of creating the database? Whether you want to create at the, let's say, global level, and what all tables I need to have into that. What all size I'm going to assign to particular tables. Right? So I'll say requirement gathering. Once I've gathered the requirements, what will I do? Let's say there's an organization which is operating at the global level. I want to design a database for that particular organization. So that database will be designed at the organization level. It will contain the tables of all the departments of all the projects that they are performing, right? And also in considering the future projects they will be taking up and the future technologies they will be adapting to. All these things have to be kept in mind while designing a database. ठीक है? So अभी implementation तो हम पहुंचे ही नहीं है. Implement हम कर ही नहीं रहे. अभी तो हम सिर्फ डिजाइन कर रहे हैं. That's on the paper only. ठीक है? That also takes a lot of time. So requirement gathering. What's the next step? Analyzing what? So requirement gathering. Will you directly get the data? Which data? The data, there is no, I will say, what should I say? Like there's no limitation, there's no fixed size when it comes to gathering the data, right? Today, like a lot of data, huge data is generated every second, every minute. So my point is, which data you're going to fetch? according to requirement gathering is like what all you need to implement. Okay, so that's just a requirement gathering. That's just the points that have been mentioned. Right now, you need to, let's say you have thought, okay, this is the scale of the database is going to be. Now, what is the next step you're going to take after that?
Sir, designs.
What kind of design?
It's a conceptual or a logical.
Directly into the design part, you'll jump into. Won't you think of what all tables I'm going to create? Or you will fetch the data first, any data, and then you're going to create the tables.
Sir, what data requirement?
So understanding the tables and the attributes, what all tables you are going to create, and the attributes. Attributes, that means columns.
This will actually happen through the source data. Like what is the client?
Source data means
The client requirements, the type of table that has to be created.
yes, but you need to ensure you are going to think on that. What all column that table is going to have, what all size, not you. That's a so whatever we are doing till before the select part, select statement, that is a job of a data engineer. Okay, so we are till now we're just understanding the backend part because ultimately you guys will be a bridge between the business team and the tech team, right? So understanding the tables and the attributes of columns. Okay? For example, if there's a customer table, now what all columns I will have in the customer tables? Yeah, so that I need to think through. If I have a sales table, what if I have all the department tables or like the future coming projects, the tables of those, what also, what if I'm designing the database, it has to be entirely covered. If I'm designing it for an organization, all the perspective of the organization should be covered in that particular database because it's a time consuming task, right? So you won't be making changes again and again, right? Which will hamper the structure of the database.
But like coming from the future perspective, all of the new joining happen. There can be new records.
So records can be updated. But let's say if you have missed a table only, let's say if you have missed a column only, right? Then you have to you have to write that, fill that, update that column one by one for each of the employee or for each of the customer. And that is going to be very crucial. Okay. So understanding the tables and the attributes and columns and defining the relationship between the tables. Right? Tables are also known as entities. When I say defining the relationship between the tables, जब आप table create करोगे, let's say आपने customer you thought of, so this is on the paper till now, ठीक है? We are not implementing it till now. When I'm saying कि let's say you thought कि one table should be customer table, and customer table should have these columns, customer ID, phone number, like that. Then you have let's say one more table which is sales table. It does not have customer ID. You forgot to mention the customer ID over here. Will you be able to define the relationship between these two tables? No. So this thing has to be done first, designing. And it also requires a lot of thinking. Basically, a team sits up and decides this. So that may consider data engineer or business people or client or SME, which is subject matter expert. If it's a financial company, basically maybe CFA or some CA will sit and will help you with the designing part. What all columns we should consider, what all tables we should have. Okay. Then once this is done, so this also requires a lot of research. It's a research task and it requires a lot of time. What after that? Okay, I've defined it. What all now I am sure what all data I need to have, right? Now we'll gather the data. Right? Because I am sure now what all columns or what all data I need to fetch. Gather data from different sources. From different sources. Different sources can be online sources, offline sources, database, CSV file, Excel file, like wherever the data is available, I'll be getting the data from different sources. And we'll have it in one single place. Okay. I have done that, gather data from different sources. What about now? What now? How will I update? I haven't even created a database till now. That's just the research task which is going on.
Clean the data.
Clean the data. Clean the data will come at a later stage. But before that, I need to build an ER diagram. Entity, relation. What is an ER diagram? What is an entity? Entity is the
Table.
so entity relation, the name speaks for itself. A diagram which defines the relationship between the tables. Like what type of relationship is going to exist between the tables. Okay. I'm not considering the column over here. Okay, because it's a rough layout. I'm not considering the column. I'm just saying, let's say customer table है और sales table है. तो इन दोनों में किस टाइप का relationship होगा? 1 to 1, 1 to many, like that. So that's a ER diagram which is known as. So it goes through a lot of iterations. Okay. It's a rough layout. Once your ER diagram is finalized, what you will do, you will create a schema. What is a schema? Final layout. Once your ER diagram is finalized, you will create a final layout. That's a schema. Okay, once your schema is ready, what you're going to do? Refine and normalize the design. That will include the data as well. Right? For example, when I say normalize, what do you mean by normalize? Keeping the uniqueness of the record. When I say uniqueness, let's say I have a table, I have a data in a table. This table, let's say, contains data for both employee data and customer data. Okay. So instead of having this data in a single table, I can have employee data separately and customer data in a separate table. That's what normalizing is, achieving the atomicity level. Clear? Okay. So when I say over here, let's say this is having employee ID, right? And this is having employee detail, salary, along with customer details, customer demographic info. So my point is, can I further define this process, refine this process? देखो पहले क्या होता था ना, पहले अगर मैं ट्रेडिशनल मेथड की बात करूं, ट्रेडिशनल मेथड में क्या होता था? How the data was stored earlier? I would have a single table, and this single table will have all the data. For example, अगर इसको मैं यहाँ पे लिख दूं, wait one second, if I write traditional method over here, let's say I have a table, so that table will have customer ID, and let's say customer name, what else? Phone number. I can have like a lot of things I can have. Then I have, let's say, sales table over here, sales table data, right? So I will have, let's say, transaction ID. Then I will have amount. I will have product ID. Then let's say I have product table. So let's say all the product table. So I will have product ID over here also. And I will have product category. I will have product subcategory. And number of tables in a single table. All the data is stored in a single table traditionally. Now what will I do? Let's say customer 1 है, customer ID is 1, some name, phone number, some phone number, right? ठीक है, some transaction ID I have given, let's say, and let's say it has purchased something. This customer has purchased something. So transaction ID will be, let's say, 11 and product ID some amount 23, like that. Okay. Now let's say this customer 1 has done the transaction 5 times. Okay. So that means that this record will be repetitive how many times? 5 times. Right? And let's say transaction ID is 1, 2. This will be unique, obviously. This will be unique, and accordingly, this data will vary. Okay. Now here, my product category, let's say table he has bought. So then chair he has bought, then again he bought some other, again he bought the table in the other transaction. So this is also repetitive over here, right? Now imagine if I keep doing like this. This is when we have 3 tables and the customer has done 5 transactions. Imagine he has done 10 transactions and you have around 10 tables data. How much the repetitiveness will be there? There will be a lot of repetitive data, and it will result in a huge, I will say, storage size, which will also cost the company a lot to store the data. So what I can do, I can use the relational database over here. What I will do is, instead of having the entire data in a single table, I will create separate tables, right? So if I'm creating a customer table, so customer table may there will be only let's say if I have 10 customers, so there will be only how many records? 10. Every record is unique. If I have a transaction table, so transaction table will have the number of transaction records, let's say 100 transactions. Let's say product table. A company has only 10 products, or let's say 20 products. So there will be only 20 records. Now, if I want to do analysis on top of it, I can establish a connection between these tables and I can fetch the data. So this will also result in saving a lot of space because जहां पे ये जो 10 record है, those has to be like max तो यहीं पे थे ना, तो this will be 100, not even 100, let's say. It depends. It depends what combination it is using. So ideally the point is there will be a lot of records which will be repetitive. Customer ID बार बार repeat हो रही है, उसका कोई sense है? नहीं है. So that was the traditional method. Now we are using which one now? RDBMS systems. That is normalizing the design. अगर सब एक ही table में है, let's say even if the two tables are mixed, just give you an example. Like employee का और customer का mix है. I have got a data from a source which has the employee data and the customer data in a single table. So it is my job that I will refine this data. अगर customer पहले I will separate out the customer data. अब उसमें duplicates हैं, so I will remove those records and then I will update those records. That is what refining and normalizing the design is. Clear, everyone? Then after you have done all of these steps, so till this point we haven't even created the database. This is all the research work and the cleaning task we have performed. Now the last part is database implementation. Here we'll create the database, create the tables. Now we will create the tables. Now we will create the columns, and now we will assign the data type to the columns. We will assign the size to the columns, size to the tables. So that's what data. Now we will implement the database. So database implementation. So these are the steps in designing a database. Clear? Okay. So these are the steps for designing any database. Online guys, clear till this point? I hope you have a clarity now how data engineering team works. Online guys, any questions?
Sir, can you explain it again?
The database design.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll be able to give an overview of this. So first thing is you need to gather the requirements key for whom you are designing the database, right? Then you need to understand key what all tables you are going to have and what all columns those tables are going to have, and what all size you're going to assign those tables, and what are the relationship you are going to define between these tables, right? Once you have understood that in a rough layout, you have the table names and the columns, you will be gathering the data from different sources. Once you have done that, you will be designing a rough layout. Or I think what we can do is over here, 1 second. So this step, yeah, this should be over here is because let's say if for a particular column you're not getting any data, then there's no point keeping it in the ER diagram. So your ER diagram should come later. It's a clear tool. So then here you'll be getting the data from different sources. Let's say from online sources. If I talk about Decathlon, so it's a big player. So you'll be getting the data from the different stores, from Google Analytics, from website of the Decathlon, right? So once you've got the data, that data extraction part is done. Then you'll be designing your rough layout. So that's just a diagram that you'll be creating. After your diagram is finalized, you'll be creating a hard code diagram of it, which is schema, known as schema. And then you'll be basically you'll be cleaning your data. And after once that part is done, then the database implementation will be done. We will see how database is created using SQL, but then you'll be taking care of the data implementation part. So that's just an overview on how to design a database. Steps. Okay. I was talking about over here the relationships, right? How you're going to decide what type of relationships I'm going to create define between the tables. There are two things over here. One is type of relationships, and the second thing is how you are going to define those relationships. Okay, so let's understand the types of relationships first. So why we are learning all these concepts is, let's say, अगर पहले तो आप database create करोगे, inside that database you will be creating multiple tables, right? So you need to define कि कौन सी table के बीच में क्या relationship होगी. Once that is done, you will be also, let's say if I talk about this table, अगर आप table create कर रहे हो, so what all things you require to create this table? You will be giving me the column names and what will be the data type of each column, correct? And what all restrictions you have applied on any of the column. Let's say null value not allowed. Restrictions. So Excel में data validation होता था. So what validation you have applied on columns? If let's say we are saying null value is not allowed, and if the user is filling the form, he won't be able to insert, like he won't be able to submit it. It's mandatory. That's what the point is, right? So ठीक है, अभी तो हम basically we have created a database, and now we are just understanding our overview कि what all relationships these tables are going to have between them. अभी हम ये भी decide नहीं करें कि कौन सा column हो. That's a different concept. So that's the first step. So which is type of relationships. So what all type of relationships you guys have heard of?
One to many, one to one, one to many,
One to one,
one to many,
one to many,
many to one,
many to one,
many to many.
many to many. So you will be defining any one of the relationship between the two tables. Okay. Okay. When I say one to one, can you give me an example of any two tables which will have one to one relationship? I am going to define the relationship between two tables. So give me two table names which will have one to one relationship. When I say one to one relationship, that means ki each record, one record of the table one, that's the first record of the table one, is mapped to only one record of the table two. It won't be mapped to multiple records. Yeah, 1 second. So when I say records of it, don't get confused over here. In SQL or Power BI, Excel may be had rows and columns. Okay. In SQL or Power BI, we have rows are known as records or fields. Fields are also known as columns. Okay. Now, which two table will have one to one relationship? Employee. Okay. So you are saying, let's say, just think through it. Okay? You are saying employee table, employee, and customer. Correct? So one employee can handle multiple customers. So is it one to one? Employee salary is in the employee table only. Employee ID is a column. Don't get confused between table and columns. Employee ID is a column which will be inside the employee table. When I say entity, okay, I used one more term, entity and attribute. What is an entity? Entity is a entity or table. And then I use attribute. What is an attribute? Columns. So fields, attributes, columns, same thing. Okay. Now, what is an entity? Like when you're designing a database, you think of tables, right? Or entities. So entities or tables hoti kya hai? Like from where do you take the inspiration of creating the entities? So these are real world objects. Yes or no? Entities are what? Real world objects. Employee, all the details of the employees. Employee table mein. Sales mein, all the details of the sales. Department table will have all the details of the departments. So अगर department table में अगर 10 department है company में, तो department table में will be only 10 records.
ऐसा हो सकता है कि दोनों टेबल में कुछ attributes या कुछ column name column के
हाँ. See, there are a lot of scenarios possible over here. We will see that. क्या हो सकता है कि I have two tables, ठीक है? Let's say customer table है और sales table है. Customer table में column का नाम है customer_ID, but sales table mein the name is cust underscore ID. Name is different, but still the column is same. And you can have also like ID also. But this ID is customer ID and this ID is order ID. So you have to be very sure of the data. Understand the data first. So it depends on data to data. Now tell me one-to-one ka example.
So it could be then sales table and the return table.
Yes. So I can have sales table and return table. Okay. Why? I ordered something from an e-commerce site, be it Amazon or Flipkart. Okay. So let's say एक order ID generate हो गई. ID will be तो different. Order ID will be different. Return ID will be different. If I want to connect return table and order table, so I will be connecting on the basis of the order ID. So one order ID can have multiple products, right?
Yes.
So अब multiple products हैं, one order ID can have multiple products, ठीक है? अब मैंने let's say एक product, what I'm saying over here is not order ID, transaction ID. One transaction ID can have multiple products, right? So let's not talk about the transaction. Let's talk about order ID only. अगर order ID तो हर एक order की अलग generate होगी order ID, right? So
You can have order table and transaction table. So
we can have transaction table and what?
order table. One order will have only one transaction.
Not necessary. If I am
Two transactions will be order.
one order, one transaction can have multiple orders.
That will be multiple items.
Orders.
Order taking एक customer पांच से order कर सकता है.
Let's say if we see that orders table. If I see the orders table, I think this is not the table. Let's consider this only. So I have sales order number, order date, due date, customer number, shipping, purchase order, group number, channel, order quantity. Okay, let's understand it. What happens? I have a, let's say, orders table. Okay. So order ID होगी. Order ID किस चीज की होगी? I will have product ID also in the order ID. I will have the amount also.
So the ID will be unique for the product.
Product ID will be for the product. So product ID होगी, order ID होगा.
Transaction ID common आएगा. Multiple products are.
Yeah, so one correct. See, whatever you are purchasing in a single go is one order. And if you are purchasing in a single go, you are doing the one-time payment. That's a one transaction. So that's one to one, right? So I can say, ठीक है, एक order है, so that will be one order ID, right? And one order ID, right? So if I'm returning something, मैं order एक बार किया था, I can also return only one time. हम यहाँ पे focus नहीं कर रहे हैं columns पे, we are focusing on the tables. Let's say I have a orders table and I have a returns table. Okay? I have ordered something from the Amazon, let's say. Now I can only return it once, right? So एक ही record generate होगा. So what kind of relationship the table is having? 1 to 1.
But order में multiple products and multiple products में हम एक चीज को रिटर्न कर सकते हैं.
ऐसा तो करेंगे अगर एक ऑर्डर आईडी है उसके अंदर नंबर ऑफ आइटम्स हैं और हर एक आइटम के एक प्रोडक्ट आईडी एक प्रोडक्ट आईडी जैसे कि अगर मान लो मैं मिलकर बोल देता हूं एक ऑर्डर आईडी के अंदर एक प्रोडक्ट की आईडी होती है मैं करना उससे टाइप से कौन से दूसरा ऑर्डर आईडी में कौन से प्रोडक्ट आईडी है.
So order ID will be different for each of the product.
ऑर्डर आईडी सेम ऑर्डर
तीन products
तीन अलग अलग की शर्ट है तो हर शर्ट का एक अलग प्रोडक्ट आईडी
Product ID is different. Then order ID is repetitive in that case.
पर फिर एक ही रिकॉर्ड ना आ जाए.
even if we're gonna buy the products, 3 products at the same time, they're gonna have a specific order ID. It will generate one order ID.
Yeah.
And it will generate one order ID, and when we return it, you have options to return one from the three.
One of the, yes.
And we will return one. We can return one, or we can return all 3 at the same time. But
Yeah.
we'll have only one option.
Yeah.
So return ID can also be for the product. If we are returning all the options, it will generate a single returning ID. But
Yeah.
if we are generating one of the products from the,
Then that return ID will be different.
yeah, that will be different. So product table and return table.
No. You can return one product multiple times. Size may be different.
So
Product is same.
shirt.
Same shirt. Let's say same shirt. Let's say it was defective, returned it. Next time
तो next order उस वाले में
प्रोडक्ट की बात कर रहे हो ना, तो प्रोडक्ट तो सेम है ना.
प्रोडक्ट लाइक सेम है, एक ही प्रोडक्ट का 5 सिस्टम को समझ सकते हैं.
I need to be sure about the columns, sales table and return table over here. Not sure about the columns over here. ठीक है, we will see this. पहले ये वाला कर लेते हैं. ठीक है.
एडिंग टू दैट, इस सिनेरियो में ऐसे नहीं हो सकता है कि जैसे अगर हमने 3 प्रोडक्ट्स ऑर्डर करे हैं और उसमें से एक रिटर्न करा है, तो ऑर्डर आईडी तो उसी ऑर्डर आईडी तो सेम ही रहेगी ना. उस प्रोडक्ट जो 3 में से एक प्रोडक्ट हुआ है वो भी उसी ऑर्डर आईडी के अंडर फॉल करता है ना. तो व्हेन वी विल बी रिटर्निंग इट, वो उसी ऑर्डर आईडी के बेस पे वो रिटर्न आईडी क्रिएट करेगा ना.
उसी ऑर्डर आईडी. Yes.
So that will be one on one only if
I need to be sure about the column. I'll check this then. ठीक है. Let's cover these 3 and then I'll check this one. कि क्या है? I have to see the data. चलो, let's say okay guys, I'll check this 1 to 1. What? ठीक है. Sales. One department can have multiple employees. You and I are from the data science, let's say, right? And there's only one data science department in the department table. So how many records will be mapped to the department table? 2.
that could be an example for many to one then.
Which table? Employee table and password table. Do we have such tables? Do we have such tables in the database?
Let's say we want to store passwords.
हाँ.
We want to each student or each employee.
That is 1 to 1, but generally we do not have such tables, like for the analysis purpose. That's a backend thing you're talking. That's a backend thing. There is example. We'll see. So you are talking about columns. I'm talking about tables. That's a different scenario. Only profile IDs. Which type of profile IDs? So ठीक, I'll see this thing, but पहले ये कर लेते हैं. 1 to many का बताओ. So one she gave department table and employee table. That's one. Because deployment 1 to many. One department can have multiple employees, right? If you want many to one, I can say
We can simply reverse this, like employee
yes,
table.
employee table and department table. Okay. What other example I can have? Product table, sales table, and just vice versa will be many to one.
It could
Right.
also be like customer table to sales table.
Customer table to
No,
sales
from-
table. Yeah. Yes. One customer can purchase multiple times.
Yeah.
Just going this thing. So we can have which table we were taking? Customer table and sales table. Okay. So vice versa will be many to one in this case. Nitesh, these are real world entities only. Now understand this.
Like some simpler ones.
Which ones?
Like we have fruit cart and we have different fruits. Like we easily get these things. I got confused by the your
Okay.
example.
Understand, ठीक है, understand this, ठीक है. Let's say, okay, ठीक है, if you want a fruit example, let's say you have a grocery shop, ठीक है. Let's consider that as a company. So let's say you have around 5 kind of fruits. So that's a product. So how many records this product table will have? 5, right? You have listed it on the Amazon. Sales table आपकी जो generate होगी, so multiple customers can buy a single fruit, right? So that means कि there will be multiple records जहाँ पे ये वाली product ID repeat होगी. So what kind of relationship it is? One to many. But product and
multiple products can buy by the same customer. This case में many to one होगा.
इस case में it is not one to many, it is many to one, many to many.
क्योंकि different product हैं, different
It is
लोग
many
उसको
to
खरीद
many.
रहे हैं.
See, one customer can buy multiple products and sorry, my bad. Sales के case में it is one to many, but आप यहाँ पे अगर Amazon sales table की जगह customer table कर देते हो, तो it will be many to many.
Many to many, many to one also.
Yeah, देखो यहाँ पे product table है, यहाँ पे sales table है, it will be one to many because
Each product.
there will be multiple records of a single product in the sales table, ठीक है. बट अब मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, मैनी टू मैनी के केस में क्या होगा, मैं प्रोडक्ट टेबल ले रहा हूँ यहाँ पे एंड यहाँ पे मैं सेल्स टेबल, यहाँ पे कस्टमर टेबल ले रहा हूँ. सो इफ आई चेक, तो वन कस्टमर कैन बाय मल्टीपल प्रोडक्ट्स एंड वन प्रोडक्ट कैन बी बॉट बाय मल्टीपल कस्टमर्स. सो दैट्स मैनी टू मैनी. So product table and customer table. Okay. Which table you are taking first? That will depend. Other example could be over here, student table and subject table. One student can enroll into multiple subjects and one subject can be studied by multiple students. अब यही वाला example ले लेते हैं. So let's say we have this DVA. Let's say we have Python, ML, and we have a student table, right? So multiple students have opted for DVA. And DVA is studied by, and one student has opted for multiple courses. Clear? That's many to many. Okay. So is everyone clear with many to many, many to one, and one to many? Yes or no? Online guys? See, whatever we are doing over here, we are just understanding an overview, like outer layer, ki how these, what kind of relationship these two tables will have. We are not going into the columns abhi tak, because this is how the ER diagram we are generating. Matlab, this is the second step, understanding ki what kind of relationship will exist between the tables. Okay, yeah. So it's 11:05. Let's have a break and everyone be back by 11:25. Okay. Okay. So guys, starting with this again, one to one. So when we are talking about the sales table and return table, or let's say not sales, let me make it as orders table, be specific about it. Orders table and returns table. Okay. So what will happen in this case is, what all columns I will have in orders table. अच्छा, orders table में क्या-क्या columns होंगे?
Order ID.
Yeah, I will have order ID. Right. I will have total amount in that order. Right. And let's say customer ID. And some other columns, right? Which customer has placed that order. So these are the columns I'm going to have in a orders table. Okay. Okay. Now, when I talk about the product ID over here, let's say one order can contain multiple products, right? But since this is a so here my order ID is going to be unique in this table. Clear? जो products होंगे So there will be a separate table which will be created where my order ID will be repetitive. So let's say I will have a यहाँ पे कि item ID. I will give a name as item ID, and let's say 1, 2. This will be unique in this table. Here I will have order ID. So let's say if a customer has bought 3 products, so order ID will be repetitive thrice, and for different products. Clear? So if I take this table now, and if I take the returns table, so what kind of relationship now these two tables will have? What kind of relationship? 1 to 1. One order can be returned only once. अगर मैं दोबारा सेम ऑर्डर में से रिटर्न कर रहा हूं तो my return ID will be different. Clear?
Return ID will be different. Product ID will be also.
Product ID will be same. Why it will be different?
Important product return.
हाँ. So when I say product ID, ठीक है? So let's say you have bought a t-shirt whose ID is 45. ठीक है? Let's say it was not of good quality. You returned it back. Then you ordered the same t-shirt once again. So my product ID will be same in that case. If you are purchasing a different product, then in that case my product ID will be different. Clear? So simply the point is that one order or one product can be returned only once. Clear? So this will have, generally it's very rare we have one-to-one scenario, but this will have one-to-one relationship in that. And it also depends on the table also. Let's say if your order table contains the products as well, then it won't be one-to-one. It depends on how the data is stored. Clear, everyone? Online guys, clear? Okay. So till now, what we have seen is, let's say we have seen that we have created a database, and in that database we have different tables, and how those tables will be linked to each other. That's what we have seen, right? Now we will get into the tables. How we are going to create these tables. Okay? That's the second step. So in order to create this table, any table, what will I require? I would like to know on basis of what are the columns I'm going to have in that table, right? I need to make sure what all data types I will have in these columns. Then I need to make sure what constraints I'm going to apply in these tables. Correct? These 3 things I need to take care of. Okay, what all columns I will have, what data type those columns will have, and what constraint restrictions I will apply on those columns. Okay? So in order, let me write it. Create a table. So you need to take care of first what all columns. Second, data type of columns, like what type of data can be entered, right? Data type of columns. Then the third thing you need to take care of is constraints. /restrictions on columns. Okay. So in order to apply the constraints or restrictions, so one of the constraint, let's talk about the constraints first. Okay, what all constraints we have in SQL? What was the constraints in Excel? क्या topic cover किया था Excel में which was similar to constraints? Data validation in Excel. Whatever we covered in Excel will be relating in SQL, the topic wise. Okay? Data validation in Excel. So when I said the unique constraint, so that means we were not able to enter duplicate values in that column. Okay. So what all constraints we have? So first one is, let's say we have a not null constraint. This means if I apply this constraint on any column, the column will not take blank values. You have to enter some value. Okay. Second type of constraint will be, let's say if I say unique, that means only unique values are allowed to be entered. Third type of constraint is primary key. Primary key is a combination of 2 constraints over here, which is unique plus not null. That is, the column is going to be unique and it won't accept null values.
In the column name, we have primary key and author instrument.
Can a column name be what?
Primary key, then it should be author instrument also, like,
Yes, we'll see that. We'll see that.
it will change.
Yeah. Fourth one is we have not null foreign key. We will see what primary key and foreign key is. Then fifth one. What else we have?
So null is the author, so
Not null is by default.
null is by default.
But
If
how
you
do
want to
we
apply
use
not-
primary these keys as constraints?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Then we have a check constraint. Let's say if you want to check a particular condition before getting the value to be entered. Let's say if I'm saying if there's a column age, only the students, or let's say only the customers whose age is above 18 can only register. So only those records will be added in the table. So I'm applying a constraint over here. Please check the condition first whether age is greater than 18 or not. If it is false, it won't enter that record. So then we have a check constraint. What else?
Create index.
Create what?
Create index.
Create index. No. What all we have? Not null हो गया, unique हो गया, primary key, foreign key, check. Then let me see what are we left with. There's one more constraint.
Default भी होता है ना?
Yes, default constraint. And there's one more. That's the constraint part. One second, guys. Excellent. So one is default, definitely. I'm missing something over here. Sixth one is default. So default constraint does what? If you're not passing any value, it will take up the default value. Okay. Then there's one more last one to left with.
Index.
Not index. Identity. Identity is a function. It's not a constraint. This one is, which one it is? Yeah, we have over here. So we have unique, primary key, foreign key, check, identity. Okay, it's also a constraint. Okay. Considered as a constraint, but it's a, you can apply that. Okay, identity. Okay. Now not null, what it will do? What not null will do? It won't allow
Won't allow any null value.
null values. Unique allows only unique values. And you understand what primary key does? Both of them, unique and not null. Foreign key will see check. Checks the condition before entering the value. Default, if no value is entered or given, then it will take up the default value, default or defined value. Whatever default value you have defined, it will pick up that. Then identity is nothing, it's auto increment. So when I say auto increment, let's say there's an ID column. let's say customer ID. So what you have done, you have used this constraint, which is a function also, kind of a function, identity function. Here you will give the start value. Let's say I'm saying 101 is my start value, and then there should be increment of 1. So now you don't have to manually enter the ID of the customer. The system will by default take it up. The first record entered, it will take 101. Second record entered, it will take 102. The system will automatically pick up the IDs in a sequence manner. And it is going to be what? Unique and not null. Clear? So these all are the constraints which we are going to apply where? On columns of the table. Okay. So these are what? Data validation in Excel. The same. No, you can apply a number of constraints. Yeah. Okay. Then constraints. So we have done this part, constraints and restrictions. Now inside this, let's understand these are two most important things. Well, everything is important, but these are very important: primary key and foreign key. The reason these are important, because when you're going to establish the relationship between the tables, you are going to use these two constraints: primary key and foreign key. Okay. Okay. Now let's understand how a primary key or what is a key. Okay. What is a key? What do you think? What is a key? It helps to identify the record in a table.
Basically, it's like मतलब आप एक row को specify कर रहे हो, right? So that you can like build the relationships between tables then.
Correct. So no, this is a key. So it can be a single column or combination of columns. It is helping me to identify the record as unique. Basically, it can be a combination of column or a single column. For example, customer ID in customer table. So the number of customers, the number of records. That means the customer ID is helping me to identify each record is unique. Correct?
Yeah.
So it has to identify the record in a table, records in a table as unique. Now, what are the types of keys?
Primary and foreign.
So we have primary key, right? Then we have foreign key. Then we have super key. We have candidate key. And we have alternate key.
Alternate key.
Okay. So these are the types of keys we have. And we'll be working with these. So primary key and I can say composite primary key. Okay. Foreign key or composite foreign key. Let's say if there are two tables, okay?
आपने composite PK लिख दिया उसको भी.
Yeah, one second. Foreign key. Okay? If there are two tables, and your primary, if there are two tables and if your primary key is composite over here, your foreign key is also going to be composite over here. Right? It will never happen your primary key is composite and your foreign key is just a single column. More than one
So what do you mean by composite here?
More than one column combination. So you'll understand. Okay? Let's understand. Okay. What is primary key? What is super key? Let's start with super key. So super key is what it contains. It contains all the possible combination of keys which helps to identify the records as what? Unique. What is a super key? That means it contains all the possible combination of keys, which is helping me to identify the record as unique. So I can say it's a superset of keys. Yes or no? Okay. What is candidate key? Now super key contains all the possible combination, which helps to identify the record as unique. Candidate key. It contains all the possible minimum combination of keys which helps to identify the records as unique. That's candidate key. So superset then superset of super key is superset, candidate key subset of super key. So just the definition, be clear with the definition over here. Okay, then we have primary key. Then we have primary key. Yes, so primary key is what? It is that minimum, or I can say it is that key from the it is that key among the candidate keys which does not contain any sensitive information. Why? To prevent from theft. For example, Aadhaar card, PAN number, bank account, all these are unique every time, but I cannot consider these as primary key, or phone number also. Reason being, they are linked to somehow your financial things, and it can be misused. So we won't consider any such thing which contains sensitive information as the primary key among the candidate keys. Okay? Then we have foreign key. So foreign key का simple concept है, foreign key of the child table is the primary key of the parent table. Okay? When I say child table and parent table, let's say I have two tables. Which is customer table and I have orders table or transaction table, let's say. Okay. Now, which is a parent table and which is a child table? Customer table will have primary key, which is what? Customer ID over here. This is primary key. Here, customer ID will be what? Here, customer ID will be what?
Foreign key.
key.
So, as per the definition, which is the parent table, which is the child table?
Customer table will be the parent table.
Parent table.
Yeah.
And this will be the
Child table.
child table. Parent table is also known as referenced table, because the child table is referencing to the or referencing from the parent table. If I want customer details, customer wise, let's say sales or transactions, I will be fetching the data from the customer table, right? And I will do the analysis on the transactions amount, whatever the amount is there.
Is it necessary to mention the primary key and the foreign key?
How will you connect them?
And it is basically to identify which is the parent and which is the child.
No. It is to identify the tables. It is basically primary and foreign key you are creating so there are advantages also of parent or foreign key and primary key, so that data integrity is maintained. So there are certain scenarios, for example, if these two tables are linked, right? So you cannot delete this table directly.
But we delete the all.
No, you cannot delete it only. Agar relationship defined hai, so you cannot delete this. You have to first delete this table. Now, let's say you are inserting a record in the you are inserting a record over here in the transaction table. Okay, but वो customer यहाँ पे exist नहीं करता, so that record won't be inserted. So data integrity is maintained. We will see all these things while we code, but this is what it is. So clear with the what is primary key and what is foreign key? Okay. Now let's say I have a customer table. What all columns I can have in a customer table?
Customer ID, customer name,
Customer ID, customer name. I can have customer,
gender,
or I can simply say name, address, name, address, gender. What else? Phone numbers.
phone number, email ID.
Phone numbers. I can have email ID. I can have Aadhaar card, PAN card, and some other details. Like it can have around 100 to 150 columns, like that. Okay. Okay. Now, how the process, we will see how this process is done in the backend. Okay. first thing is done is, first what will I do is I will just take the combination of columns. So first thing I will do, let's say if I just consider these many columns, okay? So first I will take the columns individually. That's my first thing. Now the second combination will be like customer ID and name. Then I will have customer ID, address. Like this, it will keep on going the combinations of 2. Then there will be combinations of 3. Then combinations of 4. The last combination will be what? This everything will be your last combination. Okay? Combo of 3. Then combo of 4. And so on. Now, these are my all the possible combinations of a particular table. Now I will say which all combinations are helping me to identify the record as unique. Which all combination? This. So I'll say yes. Which one? Name. Two customer can have the same name. Yes.
Yeah, no.
So key का क्या है? It should be unique, right? And not null. Address. Yes or no?
Yes.
Why yes?
No.
No.
Yeah, two brothers or two sisters can be.
So let's say one address can be owned by multiple people, multiple customers,
Yeah.
right? So there is a let's say flat that can be purchased in collaboration with 2 or 3 students or people, whatever that is. So no. Gender?
No.
No. Duplicates. Phone number?
Yes.
Email ID?
Yes.
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 Aadhaar card?
Yes.
PAN card?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Right. I will check whether what all are among all the combinations, which all combinations are super keys. That's the first step. Then candidate key. So what super key contains? All the possible combinations of keys which identifies the record as unique. So these are what? All the possible combinations, right? Then we have candidate key. What's the definition of candidate key? It contains a minimum possible combination of keys, right? So now I don't need to look into these. Okay. Yes. So this will be what? Candidate key. Yes. Phone number? Yes.
Yes.
Email ID?
Yes.
Yes.
Why you're thinking so much into this?
Yes.
This one?
All will. Yes. Why no?
Minimum
What is the
possible
definition?
combination. Minimum.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is the minimum possible? If I have a variable, which is an individual variable, if this would have, there is no super key among these, then I would look into the combination of 2. अगर वहां पे भी कोई super key नहीं present है, तो I will look into the combination of 3. तो minimum possible combination तो यहाँ पे present है ना, single column.
Okay.
ठीक है? ठीक. Candidate key. Then we have from the candidate key, we'll be deciding the primary key. So what's the primary key over here? Is let's start from here. PAN card is a primary key?
No.
No. Right? Why? Sensitive information.
Sensitive. Yeah.
Aadhaar card?
No.
No. Email ID?
yes. It
No.
can.
No.
Is not email ID linked to your bank accounts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Phone number?
No.
Customer ID?
Yes.
Yes. Why yes? See, customer ID is simply a randomly generated number given to you. It has nothing to do with any of your financial thing or accounts. Right? Even someone knows your customer ID, he won't be able to do anything with it. So it is similarly same as employee ID. If someone knows your employee ID, will he be able to find out any information? No, because that's just a randomly generated number. Clear? So this is my customer ID is my primary key.
Hello.
Yeah.
So I got the super key, but I didn't get the candidate key and
Candidate
private
key is
Like
the
why the
minimum.
name?
Candidate key is the minimum possible combination among the super key. So this
Okay.
is what these are. What these are combination of 1. These are what combination of 2. So if I have super key in the combination of 1, I don't need to look into the combination of 2. So that these all are my candidate key. And among the candidate key, I just need that key which does not have the sensitive information. So that's just only customer ID. So that's my
Okay.
primary key. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Then we have candidate key. Candidate key is, sorry, alternate key, my bad. Alternate key. Okay. What I've written for the alternate key? So it is simply candidate key minus primary key. That means the key which was eligible to be a primary key but was not selected as the primary key. So these all will be what?
Alternate keys.
Alternate keys. Right? Our main job is just to find the primary key, and this is how it is the engineering team, data engineering team is finding the primary key for each of the tables, because ultimately you are just able to see 5-6 columns, right? But let's say if you have 1,000 columns in a table, you have to be very sure which table which combination of columns you are taking as the key to define the relationship between the two tables. Yes. Yes. So this is primary key. So itna clear hai? This thing is clear? Everyone? Yes or no? Candidate key, all the candidate keys, among which the one not selected for the primary key. Is everyone clear with these keys? Okay. So if I have a customer ID as the primary key, I will have customer ID in the sales table as the foreign key, single foreign key. Okay. Now let's understand composite primary key. So if I have a composite primary key, I will have what? Composite foreign key. So it is simply combination of two or more columns. That's composite, which helps to identify the record as unique. Okay. Now let me take an example. Suppose I have a product table. Okay. So one table can be, I have product ID, and I have product category, and I have product subcategory, and I have product category, and I have product category code. I have product subcategory, and I have product subcategory code. Okay. This is my product table. Let's say this is my product ID, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm considering these only for now. Product category. So furniture, electronics, again, let's say, so I have two categories only, okay? Furniture and electronics. So product category code is, let's say, 1, 2, 1. Product subcategory, I have tables, and I have chair. Electronics में TV, and let's say fridge. Again, product subcategory is 1, 2, and 1, and 2. Okay. Now, this is a product table. I want to understand what are the sales product wise. So which column I will consider as my primary key? Which one? Which one? Product ID.
Product ID.
So this is my primary key, right? I'll connect it with the sales table, which will have the product ID. Okay. Now let's say कि sales table में you don't have the product ID. So will it make any sense कि you'll take this as a primary key? No.
No.
You have to see what the other table is also having. But that table contains these columns. Or let's say this column is not even available with you in the product table also. Then what will you do? Will you take this column individually as the primary key?
No.
This one?
No. Because they do not have unique IDs, no?
Correct. But can I make it unique if I take the combination of two? So I combination will be what? 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 2. Is my combination repetitive?
No.
It is unique. Individually, the columns were not unique, but if I take the combination of columns, they were unique, right? So now can I take this as a primary key to represent my records as unique? So what is this? So that means I have to take the composite foreign key in the sales table. So that's an example of composite primary key. Clear?
मतलब that is basically आप combine कर रहे हो to make a primary key.
Yeah.
इसलिए आप उसको composite बोल रहे हो, right?
I'm taking combination of 2 or more columns to identify the record as unique. अगर ये 2 columns में भी unique नहीं आता तो I would have tried some other combination, 2 or 3. Clear? If the order table is having the product ID, then yes.
मेरे को ये कॉम्बिनेशन का समझ नहीं आया
इसमें क्या issue है?
मतलब कॉम्बिनेशंस
I have
कैसे
taken nothing. I have just combined these 2 columns. That's it. These 2 columns I have simply concatenated, let's say. So I'll get this. कोई अलग सा task नहीं किया इसमें कि duplicates remove करें, nothing. I'm just done. So see, what should happen is, let's say अगर ये जो table है इसमें कितने records हैं? 4. So my combination should have 4 values, which should not be among that 4 values. There should not be any repetitive combination. That's what makes it a primary key, unique and not null. Vidhi, clear?
But in this case ये वाली चीज भी तो आपके दूसरे टेबल में होनी चाहिए.
हाँ तो I told you I have these 2 columns in the.
अच्छा ठीक है. But मतलब इंडिविजुअल कॉलम्स दूसरे टेबल में होने चाहिए, कंबाइंड हम इधर ही बना रहे हैं.
Correct. So it is just for the display purpose. I am showing you like this. I won't be actually combining it. I will just specify the names of the columns. ठीक है? That's just the I am showing you manually. You don't have to create the combinations manually. You just have to specify the column names. That's it. Combination will be automatically created. And then you can check कि duplicate exist करते हैं कि नहीं करते. नहीं करते तो your combination is unique.
Probably जब आप करके दिखाओगे शायद तब better समझ आएगा ये चीज.
But theoretically you understood this.
हाँ theoretically तो समझ आता हूँ.
ठीक है.
अगर हमारे पास प्राइमरी की एग्जिस्ट करता है तब तो हमको कॉम्पोजिट दिखाने की जरूरत नहीं.
प्राइमरी की एग्जिस्ट करता है. प्राइमरी की कैसे एग्जिस्ट करता है? मतलब आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द डेटा इंजीनियरिंग साइड ओनली.
Property is this that we.
So you are defining the relationship, ना? You are defining the keys. That's what we are understanding. कि अभी we are at a stage where we are defining the keys. Which column combination of columns is going to be a key in which table. Okay. So that's what composite primary key is. Combination of 2 or more columns. Okay. Okay. So what we have seen in order to create a table, we needed to understand the constraints. We have seen the constraints. We have seen the constraints. We have seen what all columns or attributes are going to have. And we are left with, we'll understand the data types on Monday. Okay. Let's do one more thing. Let's understand the difference between the primary key and the foreign key. Okay. So difference between primary key and foreign key. Let's say primary key over here. And let me have foreign key over here. Now, first point is there can be only one primary key in a table. So that is single column or composite primary key. That doesn't matter. But primary key will always be they can be only one or no primary key. That is also possible in a table. Okay? That's the first point. The first point of this foreign key is there can be multiple foreign keys in a table. There can be multiple foreign keys in a table. Second point.
But in this case, मतलब foreign key आप कह रहे हो 0 नहीं हो सकते.
Foreign key 0 नहीं हो, depends on table. I am saying multiple can happen.
ठीक है.
So अगर मैं example दूं आपको, let's say आपकी जो sales table है, right? अब जो sales table है, you can connect it with the customer table, so it will have customer ID as foreign key. You can connect it with the employee table, so employee ID will be the foreign key. You can connect it with the product table, product ID will be the foreign key. So there can be multiple foreign keys, but let's say transaction table है ये, तो transaction ID is the primary key which you are considering, so there will be only one primary key. There
Okay.
won't be
One primary key in the transaction.
in a table, in any table, 0 or 1, but not more than. हाँ?
मतलब अगर प्राइमरी की
Yes.
0 है तो फिर तो फॉरेन की का कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं आया ना.
No, if there is no primary key, there is a table. Let's say there is no primary key, there is only foreign key. So I can connect the table. मतलब उसका खुद का primary key नहीं है ना कुछ. Primary key.
बट फिर
Don't
बट हम रिलेशन कैसे डिफाइन करेंगे दोनों टेबल्स के बीच
वही
में?
कनेक्शन कैसे डिफाइन करेंगे?
One product related.
Yeah.
सर बेसिकली फॉरेन की तो जैसे
एक second, guys. एक second. Let offline ask the question.
Product ID, product ID will be the primary key for the product.
Depends. अगर product cat code है, product subcategory code है, product ID available नहीं है, तो we'll take the composite primary key.
उतना बोले ना category code और subcategory code exist करते
हाँ,
हैं.
हाँ,
और customer table में customer ID will be the primary key for the customer.
correct.
Single table there can be only one primary.
0 or 1. Yeah, online guys, what was the question?
But my question is, but if there is no primary key, then how will we create a relation between the two tables? Because foreign key is only exists on the child table, right? So we need to create a relation. How will we
So
do
foreign key, okay, let's say there are 2 tables, right? There are only 2 tables. And even if this table, let's say this is a sales table, okay? And this is having customer ID. Let's say this does not have any transaction ID. Okay, this column, it does not exist only. But customer ID to hai na, which is a repetitive foreign key. And I can connect it with the parent table using this.
Yeah, but you said if, and I want to know that अगर primary key है ही नहीं, if there is no primary key in a table, as you said.
So this is, let's say this is the sales table, right?
हाँ जी.
There is no primary key in this table.
No, but in the other table also ना.
Other table में तो होगा ना.
हाँ,
I'm
वही confirm कर
I'm
रहे हैं.
talking about a particular table. Let's say this table.
Okay.
This is not having primary key, let's say.
हम्म.
But foreign key तो exist कर रही है ना अभी भी.
ठीक है.
Even if the primary key exists, it's not necessary that I will connect this to this table only. Maybe that is some other column.
Okay.
Okay. Then second
मेरे
point.
को नहीं समझ आया आशीष, मतलब आप कह रहे हो कि एक में प्राइमरी की है, दूसरे में अगर प्राइमरी की नहीं है तो फॉरेन की, बट फॉरेन की तो वही होती है ना, हम जो प्राइमरी पेरेंट टेबल में प्राइमरी की होती है वही चाइल्ड टेबल की फॉरेन की होती है, राइट?
Correct. But
अगर
उस
हमारे
table की खुद की प्राइमरी की नहीं होगी ना. That may happen.
हाँ, खुद की नहीं होगी, बट दोनों में कॉलम तो वही सेम ही होंगे ना, जिसके बेसिस पे हम कनेक्शन एस्टेब्लिश करेंगे.
That's what I'm saying.
हाँ, तो टेक्निकली जो आप सेकंड वाला टेबल बोल रहे हो जिसमें फॉरेन की हम निकाल रहे हैं उसकी प्राइमरी से हमें मतलब ही क्यों होगा? हमें तो वो मतलब है ना कि वो वाली की प्रीवियस टेबल में प्राइमरी होनी चाहिए जो हम इधर फॉरेन बना रहे हैं.
Let's say, let me give an example. This is a table work order, which has the order ID work order as the primary key. This is table order item, which does not have primary key of its own. Okay? It just have the foreign key, which is order ID item. So still I'm able to fetch data from this, right? This table does not have, the child table does not have its own primary key, but it still has the foreign key of the other table. I hope I'm clear now.
Yes.
Second point, it has to be this unique and not null. Okay? Second, so it can be null slash it can have null slash duplicate values. It is not necessary that foreign key is having unique or not null values. But if it is having unique and not null values, that means it's a one-to-one relationship. Right? So it may or may not have unique values. Null, or it may have null or not null values. Okay? Then yeah, so that's the major difference between the two. Guys, clear with this part? Everyone till this
एक
point?
बार आप ये चीज एग्जांपल से एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हो?
Which one?
It can have null or duplicate values. This one.
Okay, duplicate का तो simple example है. Let's say again customer. So
As
customer.
in comparing within the two tables, वैसे बोल रहे हो?
हाँ, customer table let's say. तो customer ID will be unique over here and not null. Primary key. Sales table में one customer can place multiple orders. तो customer ID 101 है, वो बार-बार repeat होगी. So that's duplicate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
there will be some technical fault due to which there can be a null value as well. But still you will be able to map. हाँ, अगर ये यूनिक है, अगर फॉरेन की यूनिक है तो 1-to-1 रिलेशनशिप हो जाएगा. यूनिक नहीं है तो 1-to many हो गया. नल मैप नहीं होगा ना, वो रिकॉर्ड्स ड्रॉप हो जाएंगे.
Sir, can you give the example so that we don't get confused later? Like, can you write down the example?
Okay, this one. Okay. So ठीक है, let's say customer table or customer ID. I will have ID as let's say 101, 102, 103, 104. It will always be unique and not null. Then I have a transaction table. Then here I have transaction ID. I have amount, let's say customer ID over here. So transaction ID is let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will be unique. So customer ID is this transaction is done by 101. This transaction is done by 102. This transaction is done by 101 again. This is again 103. This is 101 again. Okay. Now, so how this will be mapped? This will be mapped whenever any type of relationship I create. This will be mapped with this. Then it will be mapped with the transaction ID 3 based on customer ID this one, and this will be mapped with this record. So what type of relationship? 1-to. Generally it is 1-to many. अगर ये customer ID unique आ रही है by any chance, so it will be what? 1-to-1. Guys, clear?
Transaction ID
Unique. Yes, it is primary key. But it depends on the analysis whether you are going to with which table, if there's any other table which is present with which you can establish the relationship of. कहाँ पे? ट्रांजैक्शन टेबल में ट्रांजैक्शन आईडी का रेपिटेशन हो ही नहीं सकता. हाँ, then it will be the foreign key. Yeah, so this has the primary key, parent table. Yes, it may have the product ID also. Foreign key of the parent. No, see, you are getting it wrong. Just understand, whenever we are talking in perspective of only two tables. So let's say in the first scenario, there is a third table. In the first scenario, this is the parent table, this is the child table. In the second scenario, this will become the child table, this will be the parent table. Because इसमें जो primary key है वो यहाँ पे foreign key available है, let's say just for the assumption. So whenever we are talking foreign key and primary key, it is in perspective of two tables only. Okay, guys, any queries till this point? Okay, so what you guys can try, you just need to install, what you need to do is to install SQL Server. So just go to, like just say download, or you can simply say SQL Server Express Edition. Simply do this. Once you write SQL Server Express Edition, it will take you to this first link of Microsoft. Just click on this, and then simply download the Express Edition. This is a free version, so click on download and install it with the default settings. Once the SQL, this will install SQL Server. Okay, SQL Server. Database RDBMS, relational database management system, which is used to going to maintain or which is going to manage your database server and the user, which is you. So your database server is your machine. So you're on a local database server. There will be an option, like there will be 3-4 buttons. So one option will say download SSMS. SSMS is nothing, SQL Server Management Studio. Okay. Let's say by default you have closed that window. You are not able to see it. What you can do is simply again write. You can say SQL Server. It is an IDE, interface development environment. So just SSMS, ठीक है? Click on this link and you just click on download SSMS and install this, okay, with the default settings. Once you do that, this is how your SSMS is going to look like. Let it open. Because basic. Click on the basic version. This is how the IDE is going to look like. This is the IDE where you're going to write your codes. Once this is done, this window will pop up every time you open this. So right now I have two options: SQL Server authentication and Windows authentication. Right now I'm working on local database. That is my machine, is my database server. So I will say window authentication, and this is my Windows server name. Okay. If you're not able to see the server name, just click on the drop down, browse for more, go to database engine, expand this, and you will be able to see the server name. Once done, click on connect. What happened? It is connect. Just 1 second. Yeah. So it is now connected. Okay. So it is connected. See, whatever tables I have created in my database server, right? So in order to access those tables, I cannot access it directly using my machine, which is my database server. I need some DBMS system. So I have installed SQL Server. Now, in order to access these databases, so these are the databases which I have in my database server, which I won't be able to see in my database, like in my machine, if I just try to check it. So in order to do any changes in the tables or databases that I've created, I will be using a DBMS system. And where I want to write the code is, this is my IDE. This SSMS is the IDE where I will write the code. So here you will be writing your code. And if I expand, these are my different databases in a database server. And if I expand this, these are the tables that I have created inside this particular database. And if I expand this further, you are able to see all the columns that I have in this. Sorry, not this. This one. Let's say this customer table. These are the columns I have in this customer table. And here I have defined which is the primary key, which is the foreign key. What is the data type? And what are the constraints? Whether null value is allowed, not allowed. We will be seeing all these things, but this is just an overview. Okay. So this is how your IDE looks like. Everyone clear till this point? Online guys, clear?
Yes.
Okay. So any queries till this point? I'll stop for today. Guys, let me get the data.
आशीष
Yeah.
कैन वी लाइक मतलब ये मंडे कर सकते हैं इफ दैट्स पॉसिबल और लाइक हाँ मतलब थोड़ा सा वील आल्सो रीकैप टिल देन तो वो थोड़ा बेटर हो पाएगा.
Monday won't be possible because Monday will be starting with SQL, the coding part. No worries. I'll explain the concepts. Then you can ask in the mentorship if still you face an issue. Okay? On Monday. Okay, guys. Let's over here index and match. Okay? What match function does? Position of the what? It returns the position of the lookup value. Lookup value की position return करता है. ठीक है? Let's say I want to know the position of Mumbai. ठीक है? So let's say my lookup value क्या है यहाँ पे? I will take my lookup value as Mumbai. Okay. Now I want to know the position. So I will say match. What is my lookup value? Mumbai. What is my lookup array?
Cities.
Match takes one dimensional lookup array. So cities. Okay. Match type. What type of match? Exact. It will return me the position of Mumbai, which is 2, right? Now let's say my lookup value is Mumbai. Again, same lookup value I'm taking, but now I want to get the city code. ठीक है? अब अगर let's say without using the match function, how will I get the city code using the index function? Index. What is the first argument? Array. I will select what? Entire table. ठीक है. Comma. What is the row number? What if I want city code for Mumbai? Row number will be what? 1, 2. Indexing 2. What will be the column number? 1. City code is what? First column from which I want the output. Okay, 1. And we got the output C1. तो ये तो हो गया static. Is everyone clear till this point? Online guys? Guys, at least respond. Clear?
एक मिनट अच्छा हमने पूरा टेबल सेलेक्ट किया
We selected the entire table. Then we give the row number. That is
रो
in which you
नंबर
want
ऑफ
row number
ये
of,
हमने मैनुअली किया
of
कि
the
हमें
lookup value. What is the row number of the lookup value?
सर वो 2 कहाँ से आया? ये मुंबई तो
मुंबई की पोजीशन क्या है? 2 है ना? What is the row number for the Mumbai? 2. Now you have said कि from row 2 I want the output. लेकिन कौन से कॉलम से आपका आउटपुट चाहिए? From which column you want the output? City code. That is which column? First. ठीक है. ये हमने statically किया यहाँ पे. अब इसको dynamically करते हैं. Dynamically कैसे होगा? ये जो 2 और 1 आया है ना, second row and first column, I want to fetch this dynamically using the functions. So which function returns the position? Match. So I will say index. This is my array. And row number. So row number I should return 2, but that should be returned by which function? Match. So I will say match. किसका row number चाहिए? Lookup value का. Lookup value क्या है यहाँ पे? मुंबई. What is my lookup array? कहाँ पे मुंबई को सर्च करना है मेरे को? Cities में. What type of match? Exact match. So this will return me 2.
Yeah.
Now, column number. From which column you want the output?
Match again.
City code. So city code is your lookup value now. So I will say match. This is my lookup value. What is my lookup array?
City ऊपर
Correct.
वाला पूरा select करेंगे.
City code is a column name, so all the column names will be my lookup array. Now what type of match? Exact match. It will return me 2 and 1. And to if I check, so 2 and 1 के हिसाब से क्या हुआ? Second row and first column. It will return me this C1. So just simply click enter and you got C1. So that's dynamic. How it is dynamic? When I will change this even city code. Let's say city code नहीं मेरे को state चाहिए, तो it will change. अगर मेरे को lookup value change करनी है तो उस हिसाब से it will change. Yes.
एक बार चेंज करके बताएंगे तो थोड़ा क्लैरिटी.
Let's say city code के बजाय I am taking state. Because मेरी lookup value change हो गई तो मेरी position भी तो change हो गई ना accordingly column की.
और अगर हम लुकअप वैल्यू चेंज करेंगे तो मतलब जैसे मुंबई की जगह दिल्ली का लेना होगा तो भी डायनामिक रहेगा ना?
Yes, क्योंकि मैच फंक्शन तो लुकअप वैल्यू सर्च करेगा ना.
ठीक है.
पोजीशन चेंज हो रही है डायनामिकली. Clear? So this is what index and match is. Index is an array function. Guys, clear with this index and match part? Yes or no?
Yes. एक बार फिर से करके देखेंगे.
फिर से करना है?
नहीं फिर से हम खुद करके देखेंगे तो मैं.
Okay. Then we have offset and match. देखो, there is no difference. The only difference is कि जो offset में है ना, वो indexing, guys please. The indexing in offset starts from 0. Let me write it. Indexing in offset. Or let me write indexing. ठीक है? Indexing. Index function में, offset में, match function में. ठीक है? So index में indexing starts from 1. Offset में it starts from 0. And in match it starts from 1. ठीक है? अगर मैं इंडेक्स की बात करूं, so what was the position of C1? इंडेक्स की बात करूं तो it is so let's say मुंबई के बेसिस पे करें तो
मुंबई का
सेकंड रो नहीं, C1 की पोजीशन इंडेक्स के हिसाब से सेकंड रो एंड फर्स्ट कॉलम, करेक्ट?
हाँ
ऑफसेट के हिसाब से क्या होगा C1 की पोजीशन?
1
1 0, फर्स्ट रो, जीरोथ
कॉलम।
कॉलम। इतना क्लियर है? नाउ अब मैच फंक्शन से अगर मैं लुकअप वैल्यू लेट्स से सिटी कोड की पोजीशन निकालता हूं तो क्या देगा मेरे को? व्हाट मैच फंक्शन विल रिटर्न? इंडेक्सिंग मींस हाउ द इट इज डिसाइडिंग द पोजीशंस, कैरी। इट विल रिटर्न मी 1 बिकॉज इट इज द फर्स्ट पोजीशन अमंग दिस एरे।
या
बट ऑफसेट में क्या पोजीशन है सिटी कोड की?
0
0, so I will subtract 1 from it, राइट? अगर मैं
या
डायनेमिक करता हूं तो C1 की क्या पोजीशन है? 2 इंडेक्स मैच फंक्शन में, बट ऑफसेट में क्या पोजीशन है एरे की? C1 में, C1 के एरे में 1, so I will subtract -1. ठीक है? Now let's do it using offset. So again this is my lookup value. Let's say my lookup value is again Mumbai and I want city code. Okay? So I will say offset. अब offset में it does not take the table array, it takes the reference point. So this is my reference point, which is what? 0 0, 0th row, 0th column. ठीक है, comma. Next what? Rows. So I want to know the location, row number for the Mumbai. मुंबई की रो नंबर क्या है यहाँ पे? ऑफसेट में 1 है, बट मैच फंक्शन क्या रिटर्न करेगा? 2.
पोजीशन
मैच फंक्शन विल रिटर्न 2 क्योंकि मैच में तो इंडेक्सिंग 1 से स्टार्ट होती है।
राइट।
सो आई विल से यहाँ पे रोज में क्या आएगा? 1, और कॉलम कौन सा होगा सिटी कोड का? 0. इट विल रिटर्न मी C1, राइट? अब इसको डायनेमिकली करते हैं। आई विल से ऑफसेट, रेफरेंस इज अगेन सेम, and I need to get this one dynamically using the match function. So if I say match, what is my lookup value? Mumbai. What is my lookup array? Cities. Exact match. ठीक है, मैच फंक्शन क्या रिटर्न करेगा? क्या पोजीशन रिटर्न कर रहा है? सिट मुंबई की 2. सेकंड रो, आइडियली व्हाट इज द रो इन ऑफसेट? 1. सो आई विल सबट्रैक्ट -1. आई विल सबट्रैक्ट 1. कॉलम मैच, व्हाट इज माय लुकअप वैल्यू? सिटी कोड. व्हाट इज माय लुकअप array? All the column names. What type of match? Exact. How much I need to subtract? So what is the location of city code? 0 in offset, but match function क्या return करेगा? So I need to subtract 1. Done. It will become 0. So that's the logic, and done. We are able to get C1 also.
ये थोड़ा सा फिर से बता दीजिए। हमने पहले भी सिटी कोड सब लिया, फिर दोबारा सिटी कोड लिया, ऐसे क्यों?
पहले कहाँ लिया?
आप फॉर्मूला पे जाइए।
This one?
हाँ,
पहले हमने
dynamic
मुंबई लिया था ना, फिर सिटी कोड लिया है। सिटी कोड इज माय कॉलम लुकअप
नहीं,
वैल्यू।
मतलब हमने जैसे ऑफसेट में D16 लिया ना, तो
हाँ,
मतलब D16 हमने इसलिए लिया क्योंकि हमें सिटी कोड चाहिए, जो वैल्यू चाहिए उसके लिए,
D16
जो सबसे पहले ऑफसेट के साथ लिया है हमने।
पहले ऑफसेट के
राइट
साथ।
आफ्टर ऑफ नहीं, आप फॉर्मूला पे जाइए वापस,
ये
इस
वाला,
पे
हाँ।
डायनेमिक वाले पे। आपने
D16,
स्टार्टिंग यहाँ से,
ये तो
हाँ
रेफरेंस पॉइंट है ना यहाँ का।
वही
मेरी
मैं बोल
कहाँ
रही
से
हूँ
स्टार्ट हो रही है?
मतलब जो टेबल स्टार्ट हो रही है इसलिए लिया है हमने यहाँ से।
हाँ, जैसे इंडेक्स में क्या होता था, वी यूज्ड टू सेलेक्ट द एंटायर टेबल।
राइट।
ऑफसेट में वी कैन नॉट सेलेक्ट द एंटायर टेबल, वी हैव टू गिव अ रेफरेंस पॉइंट कि वेयर माय टेबल इज स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम। सो मैंने
ठीक
कॉर्नर पॉइंट सेलेक्ट कर लिया कि माय टेबल इज स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम दिस सेल, एंड नाउ फ्रॉम दिस सेल आई कैन गो टुवर्ड्स द राइट हैंड साइड एंड डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन।
अच्छा, फिर हमने मैच लिया, फिर
यहाँ से मैंने
हमने
सेलेक्ट किया है ना, मेरा रेफरेंस पॉइंट ये है, इस हिसाब से मेरा सिटी कोड, अगर मैं यहाँ से रेफरेंस पॉइंट लेता हूँ तो सिटी कोड क्या होगा? Let's try this if it works. If I take the reference point, let's say again, what happened? If I take the reference point as this one, state, ठीक है, and rows. So let's say if I want C1 in the output, so row is 1 and column is -1. Will it -1 work? Let's check. Yeah. See, I had to take negative if my reference point is state.
ठीक है।
So that's the advantage of offset. Let's say अब index में क्या है, अगर आपका further data add होता है तो you have to change your table array, right?
Yeah.
But offset में you don't have to do that because your starting point is fixed. Doesn't matter how much data is added below or on the right hand side or wherever.
और अगर हमें जैसे -1 हम ले रहे हैं तो वो तो हम इसलिए कर रहे हैं क्योंकि 0 से इंडेक्सिंग स्टार्ट हो रही है।
करेक्ट,
लेकिन अगर
स्टेट पे
हमें
स्टार्ट किया है ना,
हाँ, बट अगर हमें -1 नहीं लेना हो,
तो सिटी कोड से स्टार्ट कर दो।
इसमें नहीं, नॉर्मल फॉर्मूला जो ऑफसेट एंड मैच किया था
हाँ, ये वाला।
नीचे। हाँ, इसमें हमने जैसे दोनों में -1 किया है ना, सिटी कोड के
अच्छा,
लिए
ये
भी और
वाला।
सिटीज के लिए भी। हाँ,
तो ये तो यहाँ पे भी करना पड़ेगा अगर आप मैच फंक्शन यूज करोगे तो।
बट आपने उस दिन बताया था कि अगर -1 नहीं लेना तो हम चेंज कर सकते हैं, कुछ तो आपने बताया
अच्छा,
था।
कॉलम्स के लिए नहीं कर सकते। अगर आपको ठीक है, व्हाट इज द इंडेक्सिंग फॉर C1 इन ऑफसेट? 0 1,
1।
राइट। अब आप मैच फंक्शन कहाँ से इंडेक्सिंग स्टार्ट करते हैं? अगर आप कॉलम सेलेक्ट करते हो तो मैच फंक्शन की इंडेक्सिंग क्या है? 1 2। लेकिन आप अगर हेडर सेलेक्ट नहीं करते हो रोज में, ठीक है, आप सीधा यहाँ से ये वाला सिलेक्शन ले रहे हो वैल्यू से, तो C1 की वैल्यू क्या है, मैच क्या रिटर्न करेगा? 1 2। तो इस केस में आपको -1 करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है, बिकॉज आपका रेफरेंस पॉइंट ये है ना ऑफसेट का। ऑफसेट का रेफरेंस पॉइंट ये है, बट आपने मैच यहाँ से सेलेक्ट किया है, मैच में जो टेबल आ रहा है वो यहाँ से सेलेक्ट किया है। तो मैच की तो इंडेक्सिंग 1 से स्टार्ट होती है और ऑफसेट की इंडेक्सिंग 0 से, तो 0 1। तो इस केस में आपको -1 करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट कॉलम्स के केस में तो फिर भी -1 होगा।
हाँ, वो तो क्योंकि कॉलम्स तो
करेक्ट।
सारे ही लेने हैं हमने।
हाँ, क्लियर है ये वाला पार्ट?
हाँ,
गाइस, क्लियर विद ऑफसेट एंड मैच एंड इंडेक्स एंड मैच? ऑनलाइन गाइस? Guys, say yes or no at least.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So done with these two. Then VLOOKUP and choose. Okay. See, the limitation of VLOOKUP is that I cannot search towards the left-hand side of the lookup value column. That's the first limitation. Second point is that my lookup value column should be the leftmost column of the table array that I've selected. Everyone knows these 2 points, right? See. Let me make a selection. Now, based on state, I want the city code. State के अंदर, let's say it is Gujarat, or let me take Mumbai only over here. Let me take cities. I will take Mumbai. ठीक है. Now I am saying कि मुंबई के बेसिस पे I want the city code. तो VLOOKUP से possible तो है नहीं, because if my lookup value has to be in the leftmost column. So with this table I'll be able to select only these 2 columns. But if I manipulate my columns position using choose function, I can get the city code. That is, if I take cities as the leftmost column of the table, that can be done now. So I will say यहाँ पे I will say choose, ठीक है, index number. So index number I will give later. Let's say this is my value 1, comma, this is my value 2, this is my value 3. And just remember which column is which value. ठीक है, this is my value 4. Done. Now, ठीक है, मेरा lookup value कौन सा column है? Value 3, cities. So in curly bracket I am saying I want the city to be at the value 3 to be at the first position. Then first column to be at the second position, second column to be at the third position, and fourth column to be at the fourth position only. Now if I do that, see, I have manipulated the position of my columns. So now I can get the city code using city as the lookup value. Itna clear hai? Online guys, clear till this point?
Yes.
So I will pass this inside the VLOOKUP. This is my table array now, right? So let me just copy this. And I will say over here equals to VLOOKUP. What is the lookup value? Online guys, what is the lookup value? Mumbai. What is your table array? Choose function. Copy paste that. Now, among this choose function, column index number, like from which column you want the output. So your manipulated data is this, right?
Second column.
So second column, done. And what type of match? Exact.
0.
Done. You got your C1. Clear now? So this is how you are going to use VLOOKUP and choose.
पर ये जैसे ये तो लिमिटेड डेटा है, मतलब
हाँ।
इसमें हमारे पास 4 ही कॉलम्स रोज हैं,
हम्म।
लेकिन जब भी बड़ा डेटा होता है तो उसमें तो इतने सारे वो सिलेक्ट करना, मतलब इट विल बी
Go
लाइक
with
लेंथी।
index and match or offset and match. Even
हम
offset and match is better.
एक्स लुकअप भी यूज कर सकते हैं।
XLOOKUP is not dynamic. You can use it, but not dynamic. ठीक है? Let me show you XLOOKUP.
मतलब अगर टेबल हमारी फिक्स है, लाइक हमें पता है हमारा डेटा यही है,
हाँ,
तो हम एक्स लुकअप यूज कर ही सकते हैं।
अगर आपको सिर्फ सेम रेंज से आउटपुट चाहिए हर बार तो कर सकते हो। अगर
हाँ।
आपकी रेंज चेंज हो रही है तो आप नहीं कर सकते। देखो XLOOKUP का क्या लिमिटेशन है वो बता देता हूँ। If I am saying my lookup value, let's say again, is Mumbai and I want the city code. ठीक है? Now I am saying equals to XLOOKUP. So first value is lookup value. It is Mumbai. Then it is saying lookup array where you are going to search this Mumbai. So lookup array and return array in XLOOKUP is one dimensional. ठीक है? So that means you can either select a single row or a single column. So what is your lookup array here? Cities. Then return array. From which column I want the output? City code. So see here my lookup array and return array is fixed. So if your lookup array and return array is same every time, you can go with XLOOKUP. ठीक है?
Yeah.
Match mode, exact match, 0, done. You got the sequence.
आपने 2 कॉमास क्यों लगाया है?
Because I have skipped this. If not found, it will give me hash ending. If I want some dedicated message, not found, something like that, I can write it double quotes over here. That's an optional argument.
Okay.
XLOOKUP done. Then we have freezing concept. Okay. See guys, freezing concept. Again. Let's say what I want to do, I want to perform, let's say this is my city code, okay? And I will paste it over here and I will remove the duplicates, okay? So data and remove duplicates, done, okay? I have all the unique city code now. What I want is, I want to know the total population in each city code, okay? So I'll be using array function for that. Okay, just understand before getting the total population. If I say equals to, and if I say C1, okay, I haven't now I haven't freezed anything. It is unfreezed. If I drag it down, what will be my output? Online guys, what will be the output if I drag it down? It is getting changed. It is changing, right? Let's say freezing or unfreezed cell. Not over here. Let me write it over here. Okay, यहाँ पे if I say unfreezed cell, what will happen if I take the reference over here? Let's say if I take the reference of this column, city code. Okay? Yeah, guys, tell me, online guys, what will be the output if I drag it vertically?
C1, C2.
C1, C2. What is happening? My address is changing. Row number is changing because I haven't freezed the row. ठीक है. अगर मैं इसको horizontally drag करूंगा तो क्या होगा? What will be the output?
कॉलम नेम चेंज होते जाएंगे.
My column name will change, and if I drag this horizontally, what will be I'll getting? State names. तो यहाँ पे मैंने ना तो column freeze किया है और ना ही मैंने row freeze करी है यहाँ पे. So that's unfreeze cell. ठीक है. Now what will I do? I will freeze the row. I am freezing the row. So I'll take the reference of this row, city code. ठीक है. I will put a $sign in front of row number to freeze the row. ठीक है. Done. So मैंने रो फ्रीज करी है. दैट मीन्स कि ये वाली जो रो है, विच इज दिस वन, दिस एंटायर रो इज फ्रीज्ड, राइट? तो दैट मीन्स कि इफ आई मूव, रो फ्रीज कर दी ना मैंने, तो दैट मीन्स कि अगर मैं नीचे की तरफ या ऊपर की तरफ मूव करूंगा तो सेम रो का आउटपुट आएगा. अगर मैं हॉरिजॉन्टली मूव करता हूँ लेफ्ट एंड राइट, क्योंकि मैंने रो फ्रीज करी है, तो रो कब चेंज होती है? जब मैं ऊपर या नीचे मूव करता हूँ. व्हेन आई ड्रैग वर्टिकली, कॉलम कब चेंज होगा? व्हेन आई ड्रैग हॉरिजॉन्टली। तो मैंने रो फ्रीज करी है एंड आई एम ड्रैगिंग वर्टिकली, तो क्या आएगा? नेक्स्ट आउटपुट विल बी व्हाट? सिटी कोड। सी, बिकॉज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एवरी टाइम it is taking which row? 82. Clear? Online guys, clear with the freezing the row?
Yes, sir.
But अगर मैं इसको horizontally move करूंगा तो आउटपुट क्या आएगा?
स्टेट
स्टेट। और इसमें आउटपुट क्या आएगा? स्टेट नेम। सॉरी, स्टेट ही आएगा ना, स्टेट नेम क्यों आएगा? माय बैड, क्योंकि रो तो फ्रीज्ड है ना, तो सिर्फ
Yes.
इसका ही तो आउटपुट आएगा हर बार। बट कॉलम चेंज हो रहे हैं मेरे यहाँ पे, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाट फ्रीजिंग द रो इज। Now I will freeze the column. ठीक है? So equals to, I'll take the reference of this column and I will freeze F. I will put dollar in front of column name F. ठीक है? City code. Now if I drag horizontally, what will happen?
सिटी
I will get the city codes, right? C1, C2. But अगर मैं C1 को drag करता हूँ राइट हैंड साइड में तो क्या आएगा? C1 ही आएगा, क्योंकि कॉलम फ्रीज कर दिया है ना मैंने, तो यहाँ पे सिटी कोड आएगा। तो क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे? जब मैंने कॉलम फ्रीज किया है, so when column is freezed, right? So column is vertical, right? So that means कि when I am moving, column is changing horizontally, right? When I am moving horizontally, my columns are changing. So when I drag horizontally, my value will be same. But when I will drag vertically, इस केस में क्या होगा? मेरी वैल्यू चेंज होगी, क्योंकि मेरी रो चेंज हो रही है। ठीक है? So this is what freezing the column is. Let's say if I freeze the cell only, this is my cell, city code. If I freeze this, put dollar in front of the row number, put dollar in front of the column name. So no matter in which direction I move, I will always get the same cell value. Clear? Right? Okay. So let's say you have this total population. I want to know the total population. What will I take? Which function? COUNTIF. COUNTIF. Guys, tell me which function.
SUMIF.
SUMIF. Range. What is my range? Criteria range. From which table? First table, city code.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I need to do over here? I need to freeze the range, entire range, right? So that my range does not change when I drag it vertically or horizontally, because range ही freeze कर दी है मैंने. तो column and basically all the cells are freezed now. Criteria. What is my criteria? C1. So यहाँ पे अगर मेरे को freeze करना है तो क्या freeze करना है? Column, because I don't want to freeze my row because I'm moving, dragging it vertically. Now sum range. This is my sum range. Again, I need to freeze this entire range because every time I just want to refer to these particular cells only. Enter. Correct? Let's say if I don't freeze it, then you can understand what output I'll get. So this is my range, city code. I'm not freezing anything. This is my criteria, and this is my sum range. What happened? No, but when I'm dragging, it should change the reference. No? Yeah, it is changing the reference. तो यहाँ पे फ्रीज नहीं होता. Coincidentally यहाँ पे सेम क्यों आ रहा है?
क्योंकि मे बी अब इसमें रेफरेंस तो चेंज हो ही नहीं रहा ना, ये तो ऐसे ही काम कर रहा है कि हमने तो सब पूरा ही सिलेक्ट किया हुआ है ना.
नहीं, बट इट इज चेंजिंग. सी 83 to 91. तो 91 में तो कुछ है नहीं ना यहाँ पे. And it is what? It is I88 to I96, which is I88 is what? This. To
So we need to freeze also.
One sec. No, it won't. It should not give the. See, मेरा criteria भी change हो रहा है ना, range भी change हो रही है, which is incorrect. Let me save this file. Now I think it should. Coincidentally, you are getting the same value, but this is incorrect. 2.91. So it is the last value only. Yeah. Okay, let me change the data a bit over here, right? So let me make it C1. This also, let me make it C8. Okay? Yeah. Now see. This is different. That's why freezing is important in terms of ranges. Because यहाँ पे range क्या ले रहा है वो? I88 to I96 जहाँ पे value ही decide नहीं करती है. Clear? So this is what freezing concept is. Then data validation, okay. Dynamic. Again, let me take the months. Let's say Jan, Feb, March. Okay. What's the formula to make it a dynamic data validation? I want to have a list drop down over here. What will be the formula? Which function I will use? Online guys, which function I will use? Yeah, offset. Okay. Offset. What is my reference point? Jan. And what row? Which row? 0. So what will I do? Let me take months. Nah? That will make sense. You can start from 0 also. Let's say months. Okay. This is data validation I'm having. So I will say यहाँ पे offset. This is my reference. Which row? I want to start from Jan. 1. Column 0. Height में क्या आएगा? 3 क्यों आएगा? That's static. Which function in the height?
Edit full select.
Count A. Count A only count the text and not blank. So count A. अगर मैं month से select करता हूँ तो मेरे को क्या करना पड़ेगा? -1. अगर यहाँ से select करता हूँ तो -1 करने की जरूरत नहीं है. And done. So if I write April, it should give me April. Okay. Now I'll copy the same formula. And this, go to data validation. And select the list. I want to have a drop down. And I will write my formula over here. Done. Okay. So see, there's no extra space. When I will remove April, then also there will be no extra space. So only till March. Guys, clear with the dynamic data validation part? Okay. Then find versus search. Okay. What is the difference between find and search?
Case, one is case sensitive, one is case sensitive.
Find is case sensitive.
Yeah. And search is case insensitive.
Search is case sensitive. Okay. Second difference, wildcards can be used in
Search, but not in find.
Now, in which scenarios you'll be using search and in which scenarios you'll be using find? Let's say, agar find case sensitive hai, and you're not sure about the uppercase and lowercase of the word, you can go with search. So that means you can avoid find. You can most of the time go with search only. You can simply use search and neglect find because syntax तो दोनों का same ही है. Exactly same arguments.
By default, text functions में हमेशा find use करता हूँ.
You can use search also. No worry with that by default. So two scenarios when you're not sure about the like whether the word is case sensitive, like which letter is uppercase or lowercase, you can go with search. But if you want to search a specific letter which is case sensitive, then you will go with find. Okay? Let's say there is a F, something like that, and small f, and you just want to find the position of first step always. So then you will go with find. So it depends on case to case, scenario to scenario. अगर आपको वाइल्ड कार्ड यूज करना है, when you want to use pattern mapping, in that case you'll be going with search. ठीक है? So that's a recap. That's what recap is. Wildcard means, so there are two wildcard characters in search you can use, Gary.
Question mark and asterisk.
So what are wildcard chars you can use? Question mark
Then
and
asterisk.
asterisk. Question mark means any single character. It can be a value or something, and 0 or
And
more characters. That's what asterisk is, right? If you remember the year example we took, right? If I want to search for a pattern that, let's say in a bracket, there are only 4 characters. So I will say search, and in double quotes, I will search for the closing and opening and closing bracket. And inside that, if I want only 4 characters, a bracket with only 4 characters, I will give 4 question marks. Let's say if I just want a bracket with any number of characters, so inside the bracket, I will give asterisk. Or let's say I want the bracket should start with 1 9, and then after that there should be only 2 characters, then 2 question marks. Or bracket should start with some word and there should be a number of characters inside the bracket, then you can give asterisk.
It will give return by default any number.
By default, it will give you the starting position of this bracket in that particular pattern. Clear? Then you have named ranges or tables. Let's say I have this table. Let me have this tables. So I've told you that tables are dynamic. These are what? Dynamic named ranges. Yeah. Let's say again, I'm taking the example of same month and sales. So I can say Jan, Feb, and I can have this 12, 13. Okay. Now what I will do, I will declare this as a table. So how can I declare this as a table? Insert and just click on table. My table has headers. Yes, done. Now if I click insert a chart using this, let's say this chart. So this chart is also dynamic. So if I add further to it, let's say March. So it will automatically include that record and it will be reflected in the chart. Right? So that's what tables is, dynamic named ranges. And how you can create dynamic named ranges? Which function? Offset. काउंटा कहाँ पे आएगा? अगर वर्टिकल कॉलम्स हैं तो काउंटा कहाँ पे आएगा? काउंट ए हाइट में, हॉरिजॉन्टल कॉलम्स है, रोज है तो विड्थ में काउंट ए. So that's how you can create dynamic named ranges also. The function is similar to, formula is similar to dynamic data validation. Then dynamic named range what? You want me to repeat? Okay, this. Yeah. So how do you create a dynamic data validation? What's the formula for the dynamic data validation? You will say offset. You will give the reference point. Then you will say from which row you want to start. Let's say first, which column? Zeroth column. Then if your column is vertical, you will say count A in the height. You have a height and width argument. But if your column is horizontal, you will say count A in the width. So that's what it is. It is similar to exactly same as data validation formula. Okay. Then we have pivot tables calculated field. Okay, let's say let me create a pivot table for this only. So insert pivot table or table range. So this is my table range. And done. Okay. So this pivot table is created. I will get city code in the rows and population in the columns. Now what I want to know is, let's say I want to find out what's the 10% of the pop or any calculation I want to perform over here. Okay. So I will click on this column, or like basically I will select this table. I will go to this pivot table analyze tab, and inside that I have field items and sets. Over here I will click on calculated field, and here I will give the name. Let's say what I can calculate, sum of population. So let's say what's the total cost it is going to say total cost for each city, or total expense. Let's say for a particular company. And I'm saying what total expense will be. It will be population into per person. Let's say the company is spending around 20 rupees. Okay, so done. So that's the cost it is going to have. So it's like generate this into millions, right? So you can say these into millions. The cost is into millions expense for each of the city code. So this is what calculated field. This is how you can generate calculated field in pivot table. Okay. So this is a short recap that I have done for Excel topics. Any queries? Yeah. Online guys, any queries? Online guys, let me know any queries. Guys, please respond yes or no.
No.
No? Okay.
अभी तो सर नहीं है, जब सॉल्व करेंगे कोई होगा तो फिर पूछेंगे आपसे.
So then that you can ask in the mentorship, not during the classes. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll stop for today. And guys, do revise in the sequel part whatever theoretical concept we have covered, because we'll be doing the practical of it on Monday. Okay? So each and everything, what's a primary key, what are the data types we haven't discussed, we'll discuss, but what are the constraints? All these things should be by heart.
Sir,
Yeah, carry.
one request. Sir, can you not rush SQL like